insider for The Athletic. The Warriors are in a tough situation. There's no doubt about that. As the season ended Tuesday night in Sacramento, look, they were not a great team all year. Some would say they were not good. They were the 10th seed in the Western Conference. And I know they did win 46 games, but they beat up on some cupcakes. But when you think about the top of the standings, 0-3 against Minnesota, 0-4 against Denver, 1-3 against OKC, 1-3 against the Clippers, 1-3 against the Mavericks, 1-2 against the Pelicans. You're a 1-3 against the Suns. You were 2-2 against the Kings. They were not good against the Western Conference this season. How do you get better against the West? Do you run it back? Do you get younger? Do you make moves here? Anthony, what's happening, man? Good morning to you. Sorry you had to hear all that, but yeah, very interesting all season ahead for the Golden State Warriors. I guess that's the understatement of the month.
I think you could say 2-3 against the Kings too.
2-3, I guess. Yeah, not 2-2 when you had to play it. Yeah,
a pretty big 3. Yeah, I would say, yeah, it is a large off season, but I mean, and Steve Kerr, I know, was on your airwaves last night. He's going to talk today. Oh, my child is not happy with the off season.
Who is your child trading right now? Break it down for us. No, I'm teasing.
He's still kind of assessing the team. He's been here a year. But, I would say that like they're talking about trimming money. It's very difficult to get better while lowering salary. So I just think they're in a transition phase. I'm sure that's not something Steph Curry necessarily wants to hear. Just having just turned 36, but I don't hear a team. I don't hear a management that is like, we're ready to press fast forward salary-wise and keep going as deep into the tax as possible to compete for titles. I know they're not going to say it that clearly, but they're talking about trimming salary. How are you doing that necessarily while, getting better?
Yeah. I want to play this for you. You asked Klay Thompson the first question. I thought his presser yesterday, you could tell he was very uncomfortable. It was quirky. He's putting his head down when you guys were answering questions. Looked very uncomfortable for Klay there. But I want to ask you about this interaction here. You asked the first question to Klay Thompson. Here's the response, Anthony.
Your future with the Warriors heading into this offseason that feels obviously pretty unknown.
We don't want to talk about the season first. You want to talk about the future? That was a lot of games played, man. That was a pretty big accomplishment. What's up with y'all not wanting to live in the present, bro? It's ridiculous. Anyways, what was your question?
So that happens. The day before, he's talking, right before the game against Sacramento. I think you put out the video where it's like, yeah, I don't know what the future holds. It just does not feel like Klay is handling this upcoming free agency very well. And the way the game ended Tuesday night, going 0 for 10 and 0 for 6 from 3. Hopefully he doesn't put a damper on his solid season, especially since the All-Star break. But what'd you take out of that interaction there? Were you surprised that he responded the way he did to you, Anthony?
Not really. I mean, you got to know he's at that point like 14 hours off the most, maybe a top 3 most frustrating games of his career, right? You could definitely throw the elimination game last year into it. He had a fat lip too. I don't know if you guys could see that on the broadcast. It was a physical game. And he just come off an exit interview with, and I don't even mean the one with us. I mean the one with Dunleavy and Kerr, where his futures, kind of started to come into the picture. And I'm sure he was hoping he would get up there and we would go, hey, you played 70-something games. Hey, you were 4th in the NBA in threes. Hey, let's talk about the fact that you did have a great season. But the reality is he did not talk the night before. He kind of like bolted out of the arena very quick, which is fine because we know he's talking the next day. He's last on the list of players to go. He's talking at 3 p.m. And every single media member there was there to talk to Klay Thompson about his future. That was the story yesterday. So it's like, boom, first question, let's go. And he knows it coming in. And I'm not going to necessarily say that was a prepared answer, but I do think there is a level of frustration with him that maybe there isn't much of a look back, a legacy look at what's going on. All we care about from a society right now is he going to be around in the future? We all know he kind of has these, thoughts societally in general, and he's kind of trying to get his mind to live in the present, right? That was part of his season this year. He was maybe thinking about the past and legacy and this too much, and Steve Kerr had told him, hey, just enjoy this season, enjoy what you still have left. So I don't know. Maybe it was a lecture to us. Maybe it was a lecture to himself, to society in general. But, I guess his other point is correct. It is April 17th. Like, the decision doesn't technically need to be made till July 1st, but trust me when I tell you the conversations will be starting to happen, like, very soon.
Is he coming back?
we'll see. And I think yesterday's press conference only, put it more into question if he will come back. I think it's a market he needs to explore. I think the Warriors need to, and I'm talking more management, ownership, need to show him the love, not only financially, but just like, hey, we're not necessarily trying to figure out 10 different mechanisms of who we're going to sign, who we could go after this offseason. Your priority number one. Will the Warriors do that? I don't know. I mean, that's something they need to look at, and they're going to look at over the next few weeks. But I would say it is certainly not a surety that Klay Thompson comes back.
So I mean, I want to get into the specifics because, if they, right now, without doing anything, without adding Klays to next year's roster, they're $3 million over whatever that top of that cap is. So let's say they waive CP3 and somebody else, Kevon Looney or someone else, hypothetically. Really, it feels like the most they can give him is $30 million a year, and that would really leave them in a very, compromised situation. What's the number if he stays here?
From what I'm told, especially if you wipe Chris Paul's $30 million straight off the books, and you like you mentioned, you can do some other maneuvering. Only $3 million of Kevon Looney's $8 is guaranteed. There is a contract that, from my understanding, he would likely accept that would still keep the Warriors, kind of under that tax line. Now everything's still kind of fluctuating. You don't get the exact numbers till right around the free agency. So every little dollar can take it upwards or downwards, but we're probably talking in the mid-20 range. I think length matters a lot here. Length always matters to these older stars that want long-term security. It mattered to Draymond Green, right? He took a lower annual value to get a fourth season. So it's not necessarily are we talking 24 to 27 million. It's more are we talking 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Player option on the back end, that type of stuff. And then it's also if it's taken out to the market, what would an Orlando, a Dallas, a Philadelphia, how upward would they go? And is it going to get to the point where the Warriors are sitting there, bidding against others? Or does it, what's crazy? He could have signed an extension tomorrow. He could have signed one yesterday. He's extension eligible right now.
Yeah.
Just I've talked to people about Harrison Barnes last year, about 3 days before free agency started, signed an extension. So it could happen at any point. The Warriors could not bid against them, bid against others if they tried to get it done quickly. I don't expect that to happen, but it is possible.
The years thing is interesting because Chaska and I were just having a conversation. Now said, why would Klay take 2 years when he looked around and saw Draymond get to 4 years, and he saw Andrew Wiggins get the 4-year extension? I know Draymond's younger than Klay and Wiggins is younger than Klay, but he sees that. He's thinking, all right, now I'm willing to take 4 years too, or at least 3 with the player option that both of those players received. Now, speaking of one of those players, Andrew Wiggins, he spoke yesterday, and he admitted, he took accountability. I'll give him that. Said, I was not good this year individually. What happens with Andrew Wiggins moving forward here? Because it's been 2 up and down seasons for him. Obviously, you see the potential. You see the ability to be a lockdown defender, but it's been too inconsistent and not the same guy we saw on their way to a championship in 2022. What happens with Andrew Wiggins? How does this team or this front office feel about Wiggs, Anthony?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I would say he was the most available name at the deadline. That wasn't really a secret. I don't think the offers were that great. His contract went from when he signed it right after the 2022 finals. The league and pundits believed it was team friendly to player friendly at this point. I think his future probably of the guys that are locked in long term is the most unknown. I'm not. It kind of depends on what his value is. I know we got.
No, I love it, bro. Honestly, this has been my life the last couple of months. So I'm so happy I'm not the only one going through it.
How old is little Anthony? How old is he, Slater?
He turned 1 this month.
Wow. So he's walking around. Yeah, he's doing all the talking now.
Yeah, as you can tell right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the Wiggins answer was interesting yesterday. To quickly answer your question, yeah, I do think his future's, like I said, about as unsettled as anybody. And if we talk about needing to trim, small millions of dollars here and there to, maybe open up some more cap space for a Klay, for whatever you want to do, you could make some type of trade that maybe brought in a little bit less salary, attached picks. I don't know. His salary's maneuverable for sure.
So, all right. So let's break down Chris Paul. And I want to do this quickly because there's a lot to get into. I read that if they opt in to Chris Paul, he can only be traded with a pick, not with another player, and you'd have to get the exact same salary in return back. So will they opt in, or is he gone? And then I have a follow-up on Chris Paul.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because these second apron rules are very new. So, like, I don't want to speak with certainty on, like, what all the new restrictions are. And the other thing is, like, when they trigger, because a lot of them haven't triggered yet. They gave every team, like, an extra year before they did. The one interesting thing about his deal, like, let's say you want to trade for a person that's makes $12 million. You can actually guarantee him 12 of the $30 million. Equal the exact salary, send that out theoretically with a pick, which would entice a team to do that, right? And then they could take the player, cut the rest of the salary. They only spent $12 million on it. So his salary is actually really it's a flexible vehicle to trade, but it guarantees on June 28th. So it's something that, like, it's a sped up process of trying to figure out his future. And Chris Paul's going to be a voice within that, right? I mean, like, he's just kind of got a powerful voice within that. If nothing can get done, I mean, it's very possible it's just wiped off the books June 28th, which, by the way, when they traded for Jordan Poole, or they traded Jordan Poole for him, that was part of the appeal, right? Because they want to duck the second apron. They may want to duck the tax.
But, like, okay, so I'm glad you brought up, because, like, they traded Jordan Poole for this guy, and all year they, like, managed his minutes and his time and everything to get to the playoffs. It was all about playoffs. This was a playoff game. Now, they were probably going to lose the game no matter what, all right? So I'm not sitting here saying it was the end-all, be-all. But when I saw pods go in, not just in the first half, but in the second half before CP3, when you needed to kind of stabilize things and slow things down and you needed another ball handler, I just threw my hands up. I'm like, what were they doing? Did anybody clarify as to what the thought process was there?
Well, I'd say two things. Since they made the trade basically a year ago, things have changed. This team is transitioning. Podziemski matters for the future. It's probably more important to them to get Podziemski big playoff type minutes than Chris Paul, because Chris Paul's probably not going to be here next year. That's number one. Number two, like, whatever they tried to pump, post trade, and the fact that they were going to go through a year with Chris Paul, they thought he was going to help down the line. They thought he could stabilize the second unit. I actually thought he had a pretty good season.
Me too.
But
I'm with you.
But they made the trade for financial reasons. Yeah. They made the trade because Jordan Poole was making 4 years, $123 million, and Chris Paul was making 1 year, $30 million. And they made the trade and I thought Dunleavy post trade was pretty transparent about it too. If you go back to his press conference, I mean, optionality, right? I mean, I know they use these terms that are kind of, ambiguous, but there you go again. It was done because they're trying to trim money as they get older. I mean, they're trying to duck this stuff. Like, they're saying it too, by the way. Joe Lacob said this publicly.
Yep. No, Anthony, I know you got the baby there, and I want to get you out of here so you can attend to him. He needs the attention. We don't need it as much.
Tell him I'm mad too.
Lastly, on Moody and Kuminga, where are their psyches at heading into the offseason? Kuminga had a big pop in his third year, but down the stretch. You started hearing from feds, and he was out of the rotation. We wasn't out of the rotation, but out of rhythm, not knowing when he's playing. And, of course, Moses Moody all season long having to stay ready despite not having his number called. And he helped save the game in the second quarter. Where are their mentals at heading into the offseason? I wonder, Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, as they head into their fourth season.
Well, Kuminga was, I asked him about his extension eligibility yesterday. He's like, "Oh, I'm extension eligible. Didn't realize that. I hadn't thought about it." That's where his mind should be, right? This is his future. He's entering that Jordan Poole off season. Does he sign the big deal? Now, that's probably more October business than, July, August business. Right. But that, he played well enough. I think he showed enough that, like, if the Warriors decide to take him to restricted free agency the following summer, like, I think he'll have a market in this league, right? I mean, I think we're talking about a potentially $100 million plus type contract heading his way down the line. So that's where he should be at. Moody, I mean, did you hear his press conference yesterday?
I did.
It was deep. It was reflective. It was within all the maturity that he continues to show, about as mature as you can imagine a player, of his age. He also, I think, admitted, like, this needs to be figured out. I need to know, like, he is a rotation player in the NBA. Yeah. I think it's certainly fine with him if that's with the Warriors. He would love for it to be with the Warriors. But I just think, and, he doesn't necessarily have enough power in the league to just be like, demand, like, guarantee me a rotation spot. But if Klay Thompson's coming back and they're running it back and Moses Moody's entering camp as like the 9th, 10th, 11th man, like I don't think he's going to be too pleased about that. Again, I don't think he's going to be shaking tables. But he's at a point. By the way, he's extension eligible this summer. He's heading towards future what's going to happen. Like I think he just wants to know like I'm playing every night. Right. I'm playing 25 minutes because he's good enough to.
Lastly, I know we've talked a lot about Klay, but I just want to circle back on it. I'm getting the feeling that, when you look at it, Anthony, you cover this team, and you do it as well as anybody out there. Is it best for the Warriors to move off from Klay, and is it best for Klay to move off from the Warriors? In his style, just from a basketball standpoint, they're getting older. He doesn't move as well as he used to. It's obvious. He could still get buckets. He's averaging 18. He got some great splits coming out of the All-Star break. But is a divorce best for both sides here moving forward?
It's a good question. I mean, Steve Kerr made the point post-game that, like, they really still need his floor spacing. And, that's part of why he will have a market. Like, what he does still carries a lot of value in the league. I mean, just the gravity, the off-ball stuff. You come down off a screen, you get double. The guy can slip for a dunk. No, I think there's a grander question for the Warriors. Like, do you need to just revamp your system? You need to revamp who you are? Are you going to just be like Trace Jackson Davis and maybe you get a center this offseason and you're pick and roll heavy with Steph and you just kind of you change your ethos, and then maybe elevating Moody where he's kind of your shooter. He gets a lot of the Klay minutes. Like I could hear that argument from the Warriors side, from the Klay side. Maybe like I do think he could go elsewhere for a few years, especially if we pick the right system. A Philly next to Embiid, in Orlando where they desperately need shooting and really help like a winning team. But then I also take 3 steps back and go like, do you want to see like the Patrick Ewing style photos of like when Ewing was wearing a Magic jersey or Allen Iverson was wearing a Grizzlies jersey? I'm
Chris Mullin in a Pacers jersey.
All right, Mullin was good with the Pacers. Hakeem in his Raptors jersey. That was fascinating.
You see him defending his guy Mullin right there. You
got see with Shasky, but Shasky was the
golf
foot bully and everything like that. Yeah, Mully.
I'm a white guy from San Francisco. Mully's one of my favorite players ever.
What Anthony's talking about here, Ewing was cooked in Orlando. Hakeem was cooked in Toronto. But I don't think
Klay's cooked.
Mully wasn't cooked in Indiana. That's all I'm saying.
But similar to Klay, I don't think he's cooked. I just think, there's just...
If you take a shot to my guy from Brooklyn, man, be careful.
How was I taking shots?
Anthony said it, not me. Why you get so mad? Relax. I just start crying like Anthony's kid.
Where Shasky's right is Klay isn't cooked, and I'm not saying that, but it's just like I could see in the moment why it could feel better for both sides to separate, and maybe that is the right thing to do. But also there is that legacy stuff at play, and people can laugh at the Giants for keeping a lot of their guys around as long as they did, and maybe that wasn't the right call. But like I don't know, do y'all want to see Klay Thompson in a different uniform? Should this trio get to kind of like finish out its era together or not? I don't know. I mean, it's part of the equation at least.
Yeah. All right, man. I heard the Tesla. I know that beep.
Is that what that was? I didn't know what that was.
Yeah,
I'm getting beeped at from all angles right now.
Well, Anthony, hey, good stuff all season. Pager. Good stuff all season long. We'll talk to you. We'll make it work at some point during the all season. We always appreciate the time. You always are willing to play goofy with us. Yeah,
you should fill in for me and Bonte at the Warriors Summit.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
Give me a date, and I could probably make it happen.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, you can fill in for us for sure. Anthony, always good stuff, man. You do a hell of a job. We mean that. You're the best on the beat, man. I think you're a star. Hopefully, we can keep you in this market for a long, long time, but we always appreciate your insight, man. You know the game inside and out. We always appreciate your time.
All right, fellas, heading to New Orleans today for Kings Pelicans. I'm sure y'all fired up about that.
I got my po' boys ready. Jambalaya, gumbo, and all. I think the King, but you know what? I think the Kings going to win, Anthony. I think they're going to win on Friday.
No Zion.
How happy you get talking about the Kings.
No, I talk basketball.
Then it's Kings Thunder. That'll be nice.
Yeah, man, the Warriors full of shot. It could have been playing on Sunday. Anyway.
They had no chance against the Thunder.
Hell, you didn't believe that a week ago.
Yeah,
all right,
but
Slater, get out of here. See what I got to deal with?
How about this? Mike Dunleavy exit interviews today. I'm going to that also, so that's more interesting.
Ooh, double dipping.
12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. Cannot wait for that. All right, Anthony.
Bud. All right, fellas.
Anytime.
Can we, just for a moment, because we've been spending a lot of time